Hello, and thank you for viewing my personal story. As you've read, I very much believe in using a varied arsenal of activities or methods for helping students understand their text. I want to show you a few examples where the research comes from, and finally, how you can access these strategies, whether you subscribe to Discovery Education, similar to what I have here, or not, even if you are not using Discovery Education as your resource in your science classes or social studies classes. I can show you still how you can get access to these great strategies. So from my homepage, I'm going to click on instructional strategies, and up will come those categories that I discussed earlier in the presentation. Depending on what skill I'm asking my students to practice, I can choose an instructional strategy that will target it. So if I want to introduce a unit, there are certain activities or methods that I can use for an instructional hook. If I want them to practice questioning, citing evidence, summarizing, comparing and contrasting. There's so many, so many different instructional strategies, and I could look at a list of straight up all of them. I'm obviously not going to walk you through all of these, but I will show you a few of my favorites and again, where the research comes from. I'm going to look under summarizing here, and we are going to DE picks their favorite, or Discovery Education picks their favorites and pops them at the top. I did 25 things you didn't know the other day, which I actually had to modify. So these are really easy to change. The resource that I provided didn't give enough information for students to identify 25 different things that they didn't know. So I brought it down to 15. So even if these aren't perfectly suited for your students, they're easy to modify. ABC summary is one of my favorites here. I'll pull this one up for summarizing a resource because the students all get to work together in this one. I'm not going to play you this video, but they do walk through the instructions on how to implement this strategy in a video format. But I am going to pull up the additional content to get the PDF version, which I already have open here. So in a PDF version, you get the big idea. The students are going to use the letters of the alphabet to start a summary statement about the content they're studying. By assigning a variety of letters, we're requiring the students to think more creatively about their responses. This is a strategy pulled directly from Marzano, probably a familiar name to all of us studying education. So that's where DE gets their research from. They will pull these strategies from research based writers, authors, educators, philosophers that have witnessed students being successful with these strategies. So you're given step by step how to do this. And then some of these strategies come with handouts. So, for instance, if I had, in a perfect world with this assignment, if I had 26 students, each student would get one letter of the alphabet where they would watch or read and then come up with a summary statement that begins with that letter of the alphabet. And then they would each share their summary statement, and then the student would also get to pick their three favorite responses from their peers. I don't have a class of 26. I also don't like to assign the letters X and Z and Q. Depending on what we're learning about, those can be pretty tough. So sometimes students get two letters because I have less than 26 in my classroom. And sometimes we skip those tricky letters. Again, easy to modify. My second favorite instructional strategy from SOS is called tabletop texting, which is very relevant in the lives of my middle schoolers. The big idea here is that students will use an analog version or another similar communication style, like direct messaging from Instagram, viewing and listening to a video. This time it would be for a video. This texting format engages students and encourages them to ask questions and make statements and answer questions from their peers. This came from Plester and Wood, exploring relationships between traditional and new media literacies. So again, each SOS strategy tells you exactly where they got this resource or this idea, and it's based on research, which is helpful when, maybe if you're trying to encourage teachers in your building to use this, you can use that piece that these are research based. The steps are once again here. The gist of this is that the students are passing a piece of paper, tabletop texting back and forth that looks similar to this here, where every 60 seconds I would pause the video and they would be able to have a conversation with each other. They're encouraged to use emojis, and they're allowed to use their text lingo, so spelling doesn't count. But each time I pause, I say, okay, I'd like you to ask a question this time. And then when they pass it back the next time, the student will be asked to answer it and then maybe make a statement. So every time I pause it, I do encourage them to either ask a question, make a statement, or answer a question. And we usually have 4 or 5 of these sheets going back and forth by the end of it. If we're watching a 5-minute video, they go back and forth quite a few times. So they enjoy it. They get a kick out of it that they're allowed to use their text lingo, and they're also having a silent conversation about what they're watching. As I mentioned, this is a paid resource that my school subscribes to, Discovery Education. But I did share the link with you earlier in my presentation that these strategies are available to you without signing up. So again, here's my homepage. This is everything that I subscribe to. I have my textbook here, and I can search for all my videos. But if you use the link that I linked earlier, you will be able to access the Discovery Education UK version, United Kingdom version, but it's all the same stuff. It's not as organized and easy to separate by their skill, but there are filters here. You can separate the activities by grade level, and you can separate them, by objective. It's just not as laid out as nicely, but it's still, so if you wanted to, do an Instagram activity, this one is using drawing, because Instagram is a picture-based social media platform. So they're drawing something that they saw with a caption on it. If you're doing a history lesson, we got fake book here. They have to make a fake Facebook account. There's so many different here. Tweeting. And then all the ones I showed you were also on here. ABC summaries here. You have access to all of them. Just click on the one you want to look at and patiently wait for it to open. Doesn't look the same. It's not that PDF format, but it has the same info. Here's the big idea. Here's the steps. And it gives you some more ideas. You can then choose a media type. So this website is a great resource for you. I appreciate you guys listening in to some of my favorite examples, and I hope that you got something from this presentation.